Pinocchio is a timeless tale where an unassuming chunk of oak is crafted into a walking, talking wooden boy. Beyond the fact that it's about a magical living puppet who only wants to be a real boy, the one trait everybody remembers about this classic children's story is Pinocchio's telltale nose. When good old Pin is telling the truth, his nose stays short. But if he tells a lie, it grows and grows and no axe can stop it. Obviously, this makes it a little hard for Pinocchio to tell anything other than the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Sure, sometimes he can use his nose to his advantage, like reaching something far away, but for the most part, it's a serious inconvenience to the lively marionette. I was watching something about this tale the other day and it got me thinking. I wonder what it would be like if the rest of us were like Pinocchio. How would our lives be different if we couldn't lie? Not even a little white one when somebody asked if you liked their stupid haircut. Would the world be a better place full of peace and understanding, or would we tear each other to shreds? Watch the rest of the video to find out. But before we begin, if you find yourself enjoying the video, feel free to leave a like and knows that subscribe. You can ring the notification bell to be one of the first people to see new content from my channel. Get this party started. There's no doubt about it, life without lying would be pretty darn hard. Most people can't even go a day without fibbing at least once. A whole lifetime sounds like torture. We humans are prolific liars. To put it simply, we lie all the time. Men tend to be more frequent liars than women, with your average male telling just under 1,100 lies per year on average, and women holding their own with something like 730 lies per year. Let's face it, sometimes we just can't seem to help ourselves, and there's a really good reason for that. Lying still exists because it plays an important evolutionary role in our survival as a species. Survival of the fittest might be a romantic concept, but nature has shown us time and time again that sneaky can work. It works so well, in fact, that mankind isn't alone in our dishonesty. Other members of the animal kingdom lie too. I've got one word for you: opossums. They're literally an animal that's turned lying into a survival strategy. And they're not the only ones. Blue jays will make calls that sound like a hawk to scare other birds away from a bird feeder. Squirrels often pretend to bury nuts in a certain spot if they think another squirrel is watching, only to scurry off to hide it for real somewhere else. The famous gorilla Koko once even broke the sink in her enclosure off the wall by accident, and when her keepers asked her what the heck happened, she signed, "Cat did it." Okay, so maybe some animals are better liars than others, but all this bending the truth is proof positive of one very important fact. Lying is an essential part of the functionality of our society. A prime example of this is our, shall we say, romantic endeavors. Relationships can be difficult enough to maintain for even the most stable of couples. You can fit perfectly together, both like dogs, listen to the same music, everything, and still it's just not there. In fact, a 2017 study found that in a third of all participating marriages, both partners admitted to having been unfaithful. In cases where only one spouse had strayed, 22% of men and 14% of women owned up to cheating on their significant others. To be fair, the human race isn't necessarily monogamous as a biological rule, and there's plenty of evidence to support the idea that our ancestors were more about free love than commitment. After all, if a woman did the horizontal slide with as many men in her tribe as possible, each one of them was much more likely to cooperate in protecting the offspring. But these days, the idea of cheating is typically a castle built on a foundation of lies. So basically, you could be unfaithful, but if you did decide to stray, then you'd have to tell your partner about it. Depending on your partner, that could be game over. Keeping that in mind, it's not exactly a stretch to say that without the ability to lie, the divorce rate would increase drastically, up to 1.5 times the current trend. Considering that's already at 40 to 50% of all marriages in America alone, the odds would be stacked pretty high against your typical newlyweds. But if you can't keep a partner, and let's be honest, being alone can be quiet anyway, at least you could keep a job and support yourself, right? Sadly, you might be able to keep it, but that's only if you can get the job in the first place. Experts estimate that up to 85% of all people lie on their resumes to make themselves appear to be a better fit for the job. This embellishing of the truth is usually harmless, little details like being goal-oriented or organized, but it can go all the way to adding things you don't have the first clue how to do. But in a world where no one can lie, that means every resume is going to be an honest one. Maybe you're not a bad worker. You could learn and you could do the job. but you're kinda lazy and you really have no idea how to perform the task an employer is looking for? I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but if you can't lie, then that's what your resume is going to say. It's not exactly putting your best foot forward. And interview questions? Forget about it. Why do you think you'd be a good fit for the job? Well, sir, I really like not being homeless and hungry, and you've got money, so let me do stuff for you. Yeah, that'd go over well. Or maybe it would. Who knows? Sure, like Pinocchio in the movie Shrek, we'd probably all be pretty good at complicating the truth enough to make it unintelligible, but even that would be a sure sign you didn't want to answer the question, and that's probably going to be answer enough for an interviewer. There's no getting around it. If you can't lie, getting a job beyond basic grunt level work would be practically impossible. But let's look on the bright side. You're also never going to be falsely imprisoned. Since no one can lie, our justice system would get a complete overhaul. It's kind of hard to have the motto, innocent until proven guilty, if all you have to do is ask someone if they robbed a jewelry store. And if they said no, they didn't. If they said yes, then you lock them up. Simple. A study in 2015 found that 1% of people in America are convicted of a crime they didn't commit. Now that doesn't seem like a lot, but considering the sheer population, it's over 20,000 people. That's a lot of lives to be affected. Some were certainly ruined. In a world where no one can lie, that number becomes effectively zero. Sure, there would probably still be the occasional coma patient or a dead suspect who takes the blame for something. They can't express their innocence, but the real party could still come forward, and cases like these could be few and far between. Frankly, crime overall would be at an all-time low. In today's world, there are somewhere around 450 million crimes per year, with 200,000 across the world every hour. Putting aside crimes that are the result of impulse control issues, the vast majority of crime relies on the basic principle of not being caught. All someone has to do is ask if you did it, and that's it. It's over. You have to tell them. Most people would think twice about breaking the law if they knew the odds were that they'd pay the price. As the saying goes, if you can't do the time, don't do the crime. Knowing with near certainty you'd spend time in jail or have to pay a potentially hefty fine would be enough for most people to say thanks, but no thanks to crime. Alright, so basically in a world where no one can lie, relationships are out, it's hard to get a job, and you can't even shoplift. But at least you could stay up on the latest celebrity gossip. Well, maybe. If there are even still celebrities. Everybody has a favorite actor, but isn't acting technically lying for money? So no actors. Plus, musicians would be forced to either write their own songs or advertise that they can't. Even if we considered acting just fun make-believe instead of a real lie, all those Captain America and This Is Us interviews you've been watching on YouTube would be so very different. They'd probably go something like this. So what do you have in common with your character? Well, nothing, Mr. Interviewer Man. Since I'm just playing a character, I'm not a hero. I'm really a selfish tool. That kind of ruins the magic, doesn't it? Plus, rumors about celebrities would have to be true, and reading the tabloids knowing all of it is real would just take all the fun out of it. On the bright side, no one could start a rumor about you either. The fact that kids can no longer lie to their teachers also means there'd be a notable drop in bullying at schools and no more cheating on tests. Everyone's academic achievements would be just that, theirs. No more bargaining your way back onto the team without everyone else knowing. No more breaking into the principal's office for answers to the SATs. Imagine that, a world where everybody has to actually put effort into their work. But by far the best part of a world with full transparency is a completely honest government. I'll let that sink in for a minute. Honest politicians. No lies, no conspiracy. If a senator is being an impeachable turd, then they can't deny it. And a life without lying would force the world's politicians to actually do what they said they would do and tell us if something less than reputable was going on. Election campaigns would be a whole new ballgame if candidates couldn't promise things they had no intentions of delivering. That doesn't mean any government would be truly morally sound. They could still do bad stuff and just tell us that was the way it was. After all, we got rid of lying. We didn't get rid of being a jerk. I wonder if we'd finally get to know if there are actually aliens at Roswell or a lizard people invasion. That would be cool. In closing, as cool as little gray aliens would be, and despite some obvious good points, a life without lying would be a total disaster. If someone asks you if you like their new haircut and you don't, you'd have to tell them just how stupid it was. That's not how we make friends. If you committed a crime, you'd be caught and you couldn't deny it. We'd all end up lonely, miserable, jobless old farts with no tabloids and a ready list of enemies. So what do you think? Did you gain a better understanding of what would happen if we couldn't lie? Do you think life would be better? If you enjoyed this video, then why not subscribe? Hit that bell icon as well so you're more likely to get notified of our noble answers to your burning questions. Also,